In this video, I'm going to talk about how pain isn't really related to the amount of damage that anyone has sustained, and that's if they've sustained any damage at all. Hi, my name's Drew Coverdale, physiotherapist and author of The Pain Habit. I help patients change and let go of persistent pain. I talk about all things pain, but do it with a smile on my face. Welcome to The Pain Habits YouTube channel. If you're new here, then click on the subscribe button to keep up to date with the latest pain bites information, helping patients to change and let go of their persistent pain. In this video today, we're going to look at the relationship between pain and damage. And sometimes the misunderstanding that pain only ever relates to physical damage. So let's look at that idea now. Pain is not related to damage. It comes before damage and it comes after damage. But it's not an indicator of how much damage you've sustained. It's not an indicator that you've actually sustained any damage at all. And it isn't proof that you've still got damage. You can have pain with damage and you can have pain without damage. Pain is generated in the brain, perceived in your mind and expressed in your body, depending on how alarmed you or your brain perceives itself to be in. Notice how I said your brain. Well, actually your brain is your body and your body is your brain. So it's important to understand that I'm not saying the pain is in your head. There's no disconnect between the two. Really, you should consider your brain, your mind and your body as one entity when you're thinking about pain. All aspects are relevant when you're understanding how pain comes and goes. Your brain processes the information you receive, your mind perceives that information, and your body expresses that perception. You feel that experience in your reality. There really should be a word called Brandy. I don't think there is one, but if you mixed up brain, mind and body and took the important components of it and grouped them all together and mashed them up, you might come together with something called Brandy. Brain, mind, body. Brandy represents all three in one. If you've never heard of that word before and I haven't, well, let's coin it in this post. Brandy. Your Brandy creates your pain and your Brandy can remove it. All three components need to be synchronized to reduce or remove pain. Let's use the example of a child in pain. Something that we've all experienced either as the child or as the carer of the child that has a minor injury that that child's never experienced before in their life. They might have grazed the knee, bust the nose, split the lip, tripped, cut. Just a minor injury. But if they haven't experienced that before, they might be crying and upset with what's happened, alarmed at the sight of blood for the first time and at what's just happened to them. The child's thinking certain thoughts in that moment. They're breathing at a certain rate, much faster than normal. They are fearful of moving the limb or part of the body that's been injured, and they are experiencing pain. If they run to that parent with a minor injury, it's very likely the parents dealt with that situation before, or they've experienced that situation as a child themselves and know what to do, know that they're going to be okay and what the overall outcome is. They intuitively know what to do to help the child in that situation and explain what they're experiencing. They'll look them in the eyes and tell them they're going to be okay. They might get the child to take a deep breath. The child might express the alarm by saying, but it's bleeding. Parent will tell them the blood's to clean the wound. It's fine to bleed a little bit, and then we'll stem that bleeding by putting a little bit of pressure on. But it's stinging. Parent will tell them that it's natural that it stings. If you just took the skin off from falling on the playground, and they're going to protect that for a day or two with a plaster and then let the air get to it so it heals. The child might ask, what will happen? Or will I be okay? The parent will reassure them and explain they might have a little scab that will fall away in a week or so, or they may be left with a little scar, but we have scars in life and that's absolutely fine. There won't be any lasting problem from what's just happened. You're going to be okay. The child might still be reluctant to move. It hurts, I don't want to move. So even with all the information, the calmer breathing rate and the reassurance of what's going to happen, the child needs to take that next step despite that fear. Come on, move your arm. Move it gently, move it just a little bit. Parent might just encourage them to make that first movement. in a tiny way so they can make themselves feel safe. And as they move it, they start to feel a little bit easier. Parent might encourage them to go back and play. I don't really want to. Child still might be a bit reticent, a bit concerned, and the parent's role is to push them to go. They'll be okay. Go on, off you go. Go play with your friends, you'll be fine. And they might help them off the knee and encourage them to go back and play. Now within 5 or 10 minutes, how much pain is that child in compared to how much pain they were in when they first ran to the parent? It's very little pain at all, if any. If you shouted that child over, said, tell me how much pain you're in now, they'd look at you strange and say, well, you kissed it better. It's very likely that 5 or 10 minutes later they're running around playing with their friends. If you look carefully at the wound, you'll probably find blood trickling down from under the plaster. The damage is still exactly the same. So if pain was solely down to the amount of physical damage that someone sustained, then they should have exactly the same amount of pain. 5 or 10 minutes later, that tissue hasn't healed. It takes a certain length of time for those different stages of healing to occur, and that doesn't happen within 5 or 10 minutes. So if the pain's changed and the tissue hasn't, then what else has changed around that situation for that to happen? They've changed the state of their brain, mind and body from one state to another. From a state that the output was an experience of pain to a different state where the experience was one of less pain or no pain. They've changed their Brandy, they've changed their brain, body and mind. The parent helped them do it because the parent had experience of that situation when the child had no previous reference point. As the child ran to the parent, they were given a different thought to the one they initially had in their head. They probably have lots of fearful thoughts that they were coming up with, and then they were given some reassuring thoughts that were going to be okay. They were breathing at a really fast rate, and all the other associated physiological reactions that come with feeling stressed in a situation. And the parent advised them to take a deep breath. Take a deep breath, you'll be okay. Breathe in the thoughts, one reassures the other, and as each scary thought came up, the parent had an answer to give them a calming thought, and then reassured them to breathe slowly again in a way to help them calm down. The child didn't want to move the painful limb, but the parent encouraged them to move it in a really small way, telling them it's okay, they'll be alright. If the child trusts that person enough to believe them to take that chance, then they start to move the limb in a controlled way, setting a boundary that's gentle to start with until they feel safe and they recognise then that the pain actually isn't as bad as they anticipated it being. They had the support around them of someone who was caring enough that they could trust and guide them in that moment. They were then gently pushed to take the steps back towards their life, whatever they were doing that they enjoyed, normal day-to-day activities. They were given that information by someone who understood what had happened to them, and that person was telling them that it's okay. But really importantly, they were given the responsibility to look after that part of the body that had been injured as they returned back to the normal life. As they returned to go and play with the friends again, they might be told to pick up the feet on the playground, or be careful how fast you run sometimes, or whatever it was that the parent thought was worthwhile telling as a way of helping them prevent the same thing happening again. But it's for the child to process that information so that they can understand why it happened, what they did to protect it after it happened. And pain galvanises all those associated things together and encodes them in the brain. And once they have that full understanding and sense of control about that, the stress around that particular incident drops and the pain reduces or disappears soon after. That learning will last them a lifetime. It doesn't mean they may not fall on the playground again, but if and when they do, they'll have an awareness of what to do to protect themselves, and one day they'll be putting their own plaster on and picking themselves up without running to the parent for help. That learning develops through that social connection, having care, being listened to, being advised and given the responsibility to look after what's caused that painful experience in the future. And if there's been physical damage, then to look after that whilst it heals. The child is given the meaning behind the pain that they were experiencing. Once they've fully understood the meaning of that pain and accepted the responsibility for their own conscious protection in a calm way, then their unconscious protective system, expressed as pain, can reduce or turn off. Look at what we do intuitively with children. It's been done since the beginning of time in the animal kingdom. Unfortunately, with persistent pain, we have forgotten how to access these intuitive behaviours to reverse the pain that people are experiencing. Even if there is physical damage, that can exist in all of us without pain. We all have the potential to heal, and even those that have scars, most have no pain at all. If those who still have pain long after any physical trauma has occurred are still thinking those fearful thoughts that they had at the time, they're still breathing at a faster rate, and maybe not as fast as it was in the original incident, but faster than they should be in that slight level of unconscious protection. And if they're still frightened to move that limb and frightened to return to the things in their life where those injuries occurred, and still frightened to move that part of the body where their pain is expressed, then the pain will stay present long after any tissue's healed. The pain is present in their brain, it's present in their mind, and it's present in their body. The more that's experienced, the more it's supported by the idea of belief, by failed medical treatments, investigations, proof of damage, and that damage being pointed out as the cause of their pain. Then those neural networks that end up in the expression of pain become stronger and stronger and stronger. A person may think that pain means damage still, and that eventually becomes a belief. It's reinforced by themselves, repeatedly telling the same story, and sometimes from lots of misinformation from well-meaning friends, family, medical people, information tests, x-rays, confirming damage. Yet if we could help the person in persistent pain see the true meaning of their pain, then we can help them unlock the mechanism to release them from it, to help them release themselves from it. Persistent pain can be reversed. You can change your experience of pain, change your brain, change your mind, change your body, change your Brandy. How quickly it happens can vary from patient to patient. We're all on our own journey, but it is possible. It comes through changing those habitual patterns in the way your brain reacts, in the way your mind reacts, in the way your body reacts. It's underpinned by a belief. Ask yourself, are you prepared to consider changing that belief? If that means that you could be pain-free. Don't decide yes or no, just ask yourself the question, if it's possible in someone else, could it be possible in me? If you've got any comments or questions, feel free to post below. My name's Drew Coverdale. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video today. Now take a little bit more time out for yourself and plan the next step in your recovery.